With a parent chapter renowned for secrecy and privacy, this supposedly all but decimated chapter is actually one of the many well-kept secrets of the Dark Angels and the Unforgiven, and possibly the key to their retribution and forgiveness. The Paladins of the Lion get their name from some of the greatest warriors in Lionel Johnson's history before the Dark Angels. On the world of Caliban, the knightly orders house the greatest warriors, the Knights of Caliban. Some of these orders refer to them as Paladins or gave it as a title of great honor. When L. Johnson and his knights joined the First Legion in the Great Crusade, the Ninth Order served as the honor guard to the Lion himself. Those men were known as Paladins or Pureblades. After the destruction of Caliban, the Inner Circle set about keeping the secret of the Fallen from the Imperium and the ongoing mission to recapture every fallen angel. The Deathwing and Ravewing Black Knights were tasked with hunting and capturing the fallen angels. However, it was quickly realized that the task of finding those hidden across the galaxy would be almost impossible and hard to hide from the Imperium and the lower ranks with the Unforgiven. It is not practical for entire companies or large numbers of Marines moved en masse when searching for small groups or even individuals across the galaxy. It would also be unorthodox and unusual if they split up to search and would leave them spread too thin to act as chapters. Both behaviors could also bring attention from unwanted organizations such as the Inquisition. The need for specialists tasked with operating in small teams, able to search out the fallen whilst going undetected, was vital. These individuals and small teams could hunt out and locate the fallen before calling in the assistance of larger Unforgiven forces if needed. Using the Imperium's lack of coordination and swamped records, the Inner Circle requested the creation of a new chapter. This chapter was named the Paladins of the Lion. The Paladins still see themselves as the honor guard and elite protectors of the Lion, but with the Lion incapacitated, they are protecting his honor, reputation and legacy more so than his physical being. The Paladins of the Lion were deliberately shrouded in mystery with an unknown founding, supposedly lost in the records of the Adeptus Administratum. According to Imperial records, the Paladins of the Lion are lost or at best on the edge of annihilation following a crusade into the Eye of Terror, with many believing them to be entirely lost, as nobody outside the Unforgiven has had any official communication with them. In truth, this chapter has never even been close to the full fighting strength of a chapter and never will be. The structure of this chapter mirrors irregular chapters deliberately to help disguise themselves. Instead of having 10 companies, there are 10 individual paladins out in the expanse of the galaxy. Each have the same role and responsibility: to hunt out and help capture the fallen at all costs. Each paladin will have a company or retinue of battle brothers, commonly known as knights, but some may have other titles, such as knight-errant, depending on their role, or even the individual whim of the paladin they serve. There are no set rules for how many they each have in their retinue or how they operate as a team. Some paladins will choose to work as a small team hunting the fallen together, while others will have larger retinues but might act individually to cover more ground and chase leads, only forming back up as a unit if one of their number have located the fallen. In the same fashion, there is no set color scheme for the chapter, although they do have a chapter symbol or seal. It is believed that each paladin and his knights have their own heraldry, with some even regularly changing the paint to infiltrate and hide amongst other Astartes chapters, or even Chaos warbands if rumors are true. The First Legion was renowned for having some of the largest stores of ancient technology since the Great Crusade. This has been added to and expanded over the centuries, recovered or even stolen from the chapters. In some cases, chaos or even alien resources and technology has been recovered and adapted. If these items could help in the hunt for the fallen, it is seen as a necessary evil to further their ultimate goals. The Paladins are given access to the most precious and dangerous weapons and artifacts belonging to the Unforgiven. Each member will have his own extensive personal armory with a variety of rare weapons and armor so that they can carry out any duty or mission as they see fit. The chapter even has access to items and relics that could be deemed so heretical, alien and dangerous as to have all Unforgiven branded as traitors by the wider Imperium if discovered. But seeing as the secret of the Unforgiven would also have this effect, it is of little concern to them. The need to find and eliminate the Fallen is so great that they will use anything to help them achieve this goal, no matter how dark or twisted, if it can absolve them or their guilt. Recruitment. There are no new aspirants in the chapter, but instead members are all selected from the elite of all the Unforgiven chapters, and it is seen as a great and rare honor to be selected. They renounce any rank and their old name, taking a new name and title when they swear themselves to their new chapter, in a ceremony usually held at the Rock in front of high-ranking members of the Inner Circle, such as the Lord Paladin and the Supreme Grand Master. After the ceremony, they will start to expand their personal armory. They will be able to take and use the weapons they were using previously, unless of particular importance to the parent chapter, but they will also be granted access to the Grand Armory of the Rock and be able to select a few items of Wargear. These items are not available to many within the Unforgiven, and to use them is an honor. In some cases, potential battle brothers might have been watched throughout their career and headhunted if they showed promise early on. They are not selected because they are the greatest warriors necessarily, but if they show the courage, fortitude, faith and cunning to act independently in the darkest of places and remain true in their actions and faithful to the Emperor. Some rumors exist that the Paladins possess the power to save heroic Marines just before their death, or even bring back worthy Marines that have heroically died in service of the chapter. One such rumor is that the legendary veteran Scout Sergeant Naaman, who was supposedly killed on Piscina 4, was actually saved or recovered following his death, and is now a knight-errant serving the 4th Paladin. Although this has never been confirmed, as the knight-errant in question will have taken on a new name on joining the chapter, and is also rumoured to never remove his helmet and will not speak. Whether this is because he can't, or simply chooses not to, is unknown, but it would prevent anyone who knew Sergeant Naaman previously recognizing him. These rumors are of much concern for some within Unforgiven. This method of recruiting only a few elite members from existing chapters raises further questions about what the Dark Angels and its successors are doing. What happened to all the gene seed that was supposedly used to create this chapter? What about the considerable resources that would have also been provided to create a whole full-strength chapter, such as arms or armaments, ships for the fleet? Were these resources spread amongst the other Unforgiven? Or have they been hoarded away, and if so, for what purpose? If a paladin is killed, then a new one is voted in by the other paladins. Serving knights who think they are worthy may put themselves forward, or a knight can be nominated by a paladin. There may be trials or challenges to test them and find who is worthy, or it may just be down to a vote. It can depend on the situation and the applicants. Knights within the slain paladin's retinue will often join the retinue of the next paladin to step into their previous master's place. However, some will not want to serve under the new paladin, or the new paladin will wish to choose his own retinue. If this is the case, knights might join other paladins' retinues if they are accepted. In very rare circumstances, they might be granted permission to return to their parent chapter. However, it is unknown if any have opted for this, or if it has ever been approved by the Lord Paladin. Paladins of the Rock. The Paladins of the Lion are not just made up of the 10 paladins and their knights patrolling the galaxy. There are 2 highly renowned positions known as the Paladins of the Rock. These paladins are responsible for leading the chapter and collating and coordinating the intelligence gathered by the other paladins and disseminating it to the inner circle of the Unforgiven. As well as having his own extensive and unique armory, every Lord Paladin will inherit a powerful suit of power armor from their predecessor. The suit is thought to be a unique relic and highly gilded set of armor. The entire chest piece is supposedly a lion's face. It is thought to be only the Watchers in the Dark who maintain it. The Paladins of the Rock can dispatch reinforcements from any other chapters if needed and can coordinate the hunt for the fallen angels. They are members of the inner circle and represent the chapter at meetings. Given that, they are authorized to deploy any Unforgiven chapter as they see fit in order to capture the fallen. They could be seen as higher ranking than a chapter master, but are not, technically. While others in the chapter are almost solely focused on the capture of the fallen, the Paladins of the Rock have another duty. Their greatest responsibility is protecting the two most important rooms in the depths of the rock, the one that the lion himself rests in, and the cell containing Luther. Members of the Unforgiven learn more of the truth about the history of the Dark Angels as they progress through the ranks. Possibly the greatest secret of them all is that Luther is still alive and in captivity in the rock. The only people who know of this are the Supreme Grand Master Azrael, the 12 Paladins, and the Elder Paladin. A knight will learn of this truth when he is made a Paladin and be given a responsibility of keeping that secret. One of them will always be responsible for guarding these rooms and patrolling the depths of the rock. You will never see both attending at the same meeting or council of the inner circle. The Supreme Grand Master Azrael is the only one authorized to go into the cell containing Luther, but the Paladins of the Rock are the best guardians. The tradition of the Paladins dictates that the chapter master or Lord Paladin will be one of the Paladins of the Rock, and the second will be the newest appointed Paladin in the chapter. He will be given a temporary title of the Pure Paladin. They are given this title as they will have been newly sworn in as a pure blade, like the warriors of old. He could also be seen as the purest of the pure blades, as he is still untainted by his shameful quest to hunt down the fallen, as a fully sworn paladin that is. The newly appointed Pure Paladin could already be considered a highly experienced and high-ranking battle brother. They will have served as battle brother within one of the chapters of the Unforgiven, often raising high within the ranks to positions such as the Deathwing. They will then serve as a knight for a paladin before being appointed as a paladin themselves. On gaining this title, they will be taught how to coordinate and lead the chapter by the Lord Paladin before eventually heading out to lead their own hunt for the fallen as one of the 10 paladins when the next Pure Paladin is appointed. Should the Lord Paladin die or be killed, the other paladins who want the position will nominate themselves and a vote will be held. However, the Supreme Grand Master Azrael and other members of the Inner Circle are also believed to have a say in the matter. Travel. The Paladins move in small groups and as such do not generally need large spacefaring ships. Using highly modified smaller ships such as the Gladius frigate, they travel in their small teams or even individually across the galaxy. These ships use forgotten and ancient technology that enables them to traverse the warp more efficiently than anyone else in the Imperium, so they can react and respond to any potential information regarding the Fallen. The ships often have specially designed cells and containment facilities designed to lock away even the mightiest of Astartes. The ships will be skeleton-crewed, almost entirely by servitors, and often piloted by the Astartes themselves. In the rare and unlikely times human crew is used, they will be bound for life to the ship they serve on, often with devices that would kill them should they try to leave the ship for any reason. Those that do serve in the fleet could be described as brainwashed. They will never know the true purpose of their masters, but all have an undying faith that they are serving the Emperor's Angels of Death. The Librarius, Chaplaincy, Apothecarium, and dreadnoughts within the Paladins of the Lion. There is no normal structure as such, with each paladin hand-selecting his team with numbers that could vary from no more than a tactical squad to 40, depending on the choice of the paladin. However, it is generally accepted that each paladin will have at least one representative from the chaplaincy and librarius, and often more. With regards to the librarius, it is likely that many of the chapter are psykers to some degree, or that some paladins might well be librarians themselves. This is because librarians can supposedly detect others with gene seed from the same Primarch as themselves, obviously of vital importance when hunting the fallen angels. The chaplains of the Paladins of the Lion differ from other Unforgiven chaplains, as they are not interrogated chaplains, rather they are chaplain knights. As the Paladins of the Lion focus purely on keeping the secret of the Dark Angels and hunting down the fallen. This work could be a considerable strain for the Astartes of the chapter. Working so close to chaos and corruption, often in isolation the whole time, constantly reminded of their shame and guilt. Because of this, the chaplain knights will consistently be looking for signs of weakness and corruption amongst their brothers and even other Unforgiven chapters. When a fallen angel is captured alive, there are many willing interrogated chaplains in the Dark Angels and other Unforgiven chapters. It is then the duty of the chapter and its chaplain knights to safely convey the fallen angel to the interrogated chaplains. The chaplain knights will not question the fallen angel or speak to him at all, if possible. They will conduct prayers and rituals in preparation for the fallen's upcoming penance, and fortify and sanctify themselves and their brothers against the taint of chaos. The chaplain knights also tend to deal with the death of members of the chapter. A paladin may have an apothecary in his company to tend to the injured, but they do not usually remove progenoid organs. The gene seed of a slain Astartes is extremely valuable, as it is needed to carry on a chapter. However, the Paladins of the Lion do not have their own gene seed. When one of them is slain, the body is to be returned to the parent chapter of that marine. The chaplain knight will often oversee this final journey of a slain brother, but also the redistribution of his wargear and personal armory. Some of the marine's weapons and equipment will have been brought with him from his original chapter. This will be returned to the chapter along with his gene seed. The others will usually be returned to the Grand Armory of the Rock, ready to be selected by other members of the chapter. Generally speaking, there is no need for dreadnoughts in the chapter. A dreadnought would be unable to conduct the necessary duties expected of a knight, and should they need that sort of heavy firepower, then they will be assisted by other Unforgiven chapters. There's one possible exception to this rule, known as the Elder Paladin. This ancient warrior's name is all but forgotten to the depths of history. He is believed to have been one of the original Knights of Caliban who served with the Lion, lucky enough to be of age and undergo the transformation into an Astartes. He served in the Ninth Order as one of the original Pureblades alongside L. Johnson. He was also unlucky enough to be mortally wounded early on in the Crusade, possibly even one of his first missions with the Primarch. This warrior felt so strongly that he had failed. He was appalled that he would not get to see and experience the Great Crusade alongside his Primarch. He insisted in being interred into a sarcophagus so he could continue to serve. The pain and discomfort of serving as a dreadnought would be suitable penance for his failure. He went to fight in the Crusade, serving his Primarch honorably. Although not technically a member of the new chapter, the Paladins of the Lion carry out the same role as they used to, and have taken on the names and titles of his previous unit, as the Honor Guard of the Lion, although admittedly in a very different way now. He is said to never leave the rock and is rarely awake in the recent centuries, believed to have become deeply saddened and enraged at the state of his beloved chapter. This great warrior is distraught at what he has seen the Dark Angels become, galled at the truth that the Dark Angels are no longer leading the fight against the enemies of the Imperium as they used to, He has refused to speak to any of his current brothers, and even direct orders from previous Supreme Grand Masters have been ignored. The few that know of him believe the ancient warrior will only rejoin the fight alongside Al Johnson should he be awake and dare the chapter of its troubled past. He is also the only living Astartes to personally know Al Johnson and Luther, and is believed to have been close to both. Although he would not technically be authorized to enter the cell containing Luther, would anyone be capable of stopping an enraged venerable dreadnought determined to get in? It is unknown if he has ever even entered Luther's cell or not, but there are historic reports in the Paladins of the Rock's records that the silent ancient warrior has approached the entrance to the cell, stopping only meters away, seemingly staring at the cell for a prolonged period of time. Completely unaware, or choosing to ignore the challenges and warnings from the paladin guarding the door, before eventually continuing his silent vigil in the depths of the rock. Working alongside other Unforgiven chapters. While the chapter numbers around 100 at best, the members of the Paladins of the Lion are all experienced and hardened veterans with access to some of the oldest and finest weapons and armor. This makes them deadly individual warriors and strike teams. They are easily able to take on smaller Chaos or Traitor Astartes warbands when needed, and will often be able to capture and extract a fallen angel without need for assistance. However, in some cases, their prey might be a part of a larger warband or army, so they will often rely on the other Unforgiven chapters when in need of additional fire support and numbers. Often the paladin and his few knights will simply attach themselves to the command squad of the chapter, assisting them to locate and capture any fallen. However, the majority of the Astartes of the Unforgiven are completely unaware of the fallen angels and their efforts to capture them. These warriors will simply think they are destroying enemies of the Imperium, ignorant to any other objectives. To prevent suspicion and questions about unknown warriors from an unknown chapter coming from the lower ranks, the paladin may decide to hide his presence from them, either blending into the chapter and becoming part of the elite units for the duration, or even passing on any intelligence they have and hanging back, letting the elite of the other chapter capture their prey. As long as the fallen are captured, it is a victory for the paladin. There is little place for personal glory when they are still fallen at large to shame the chapter. Conflict within the chapter. Every member of the chapter is a strong-willed and independent character, often selected from the elite units from any of the Unforgiven chapters. Despite all having the same goal, they all have their own methods in trying to absolve the chapter. Because of this, it is not uncommon for rivalry between paladins or even outright hatred. Some paladins have been known to infiltrate or even mimic Chaos warbands to gain trust of fallen Astartes in order to follow up on intelligence when hunting their prey. In doing this, it is likely that they will have committed crimes and atrocities against the Imperium, and while that paladin would be able to justify these actions as necessary and a small price to pay, other paladins might not agree. One paladin of note is Paladin Aziel, the current 8th paladin. He is renowned within the chapter as being one of the oldest serving members and is famed for ruthlessness and efficiency in bringing the fallen to justice. He and his knights can boast to being responsible for some of the highest number of fallen angels to be handed over to the interrogator chaplains. Had he not captured so many fallen angels, he would likely have been dealt with by the other paladins, for Paladin Aziel is also seen for being an overly honorable fool by many of the other paladins, refusing to bend or break his code of honor, and stoop to such underhanded tactics as showing anything but pure hatred to those fallen to chaos, even if it could help him locate one of the fallen. Aziel sees it as the duty of all Unforgiven to not only seek redemption by eliminating the fallen, but to better themselves and work harder to be truthful and loyal servants to the Imperium. He has often made statements that when the Unforgiven have absolved themselves of their sinful past, they will also have to pay penance for the other sins they have committed in order to do so. He has even made a threatening statement to Supreme Grandmaster Azrael. I want nothing more than to make sure our sins are repented for. Those who have sinned must pay penance, regardless of rank and position, Supreme Grandmaster. We all carry the shame of Luther with us. Although there have been paladins slain by other members of the chapter, it is a rare occurrence, mainly as there are so few of them spread out in the galaxy. They rarely encounter each other in the field. But also, as a general rule, any internal conflict can be put aside, as they know they all need to first focus on redeeming the honor of the Lion and his sons. Cypher. Although so little is known about Cypher, this warrior is a legend in his own right, believed by many to be a traitor and fallen angel. It is unclear who he is exactly and what his agenda is, as any records of his existence are kept hidden away, possibly even from the inner circle. The original role of the Cypher is from the Order on Caliban as the keeper of tradition and would generally be one of the oldest and wisest members of the council. The modern-day Cypher could be a position held, a title, or a rank passed to the next Astartes, or he could be the same man that held the position during the fall of Caliban. One thing that is certain is that he has always been able to avoid capture unless he has wanted to be captured. How has he achieved this? Has he had help from members of the Unforgiven? Throughout the history of the Dark Angels and their successors, they have all chased after the elusive warrior. Surely the Paladins of the Lion would be no different. With the rest of the chapter being stylized around the Order and Caliban Knights, would they also take on the title and responsibility of the position of Cypher? Many of the Paladins initially seem to show the same fanatical desire to hunt and capture Cypher as others within the Unforgiven. But what if a minority were working with him, that knew of his true purpose and believed he was not fallen? Could they secretly support Cypher without the knowledge of the other Paladins, slowly convincing more of their chapter to support him even if he remained a traitor in the eyes of the Supreme Grandmaster and the other Unforgiven? This would obviously cause friction amongst members, but it is not unheard of for in-house fighting. If this were the case, they could use Cypher as a focus for the rest of the Unforgiven, using their hatred for him to spur them on, taking key objectives in their efforts to capture him. In recent history, Cypher has even surrendered to the Inner Circle and managed to convince them to aid him before he escaped again. How could he have managed any of this without help from within the Inner Circle? Obviously, little is known of this matter, but in a chapter seeming built on secrets, it's not too hard to imagine the Paladins of the Lion having their own, even keeping them from the Supreme Grandmaster and rest of the Inner Circle. Luther's escape. Following the 13th Black Crusade, the unthinkable happened. The void shields of the Rock were penetrated, and the Rock was attacked by a large demon army led by the Dreamer Prince Marbus. The Lord Paladin and the Pure Paladin set to their most important task, defending Lionel Johnson and guarding Luther. As the more experienced warrior, Lord Paladin Jehadiel went to defend the Lion, while the Pure Paladin took up post outside Luther's cell. The effects of the warp on their Vox communication left each isolated, unable to contact each other or others on the Rock. Lord Paladin Jehadiel soon came under attack, but was able to fend off the foul demons. He was surprised at the apparent lack of numbers of the foe, but the reason for this became apparent as the Elder Paladin, clearly heavily damaged, approached. The venerable Dreadnought had undoubtedly taken on most of the demons heading for the Lion, clearly satisfied that the Lion was protected by the Lord Paladin, and despite his almost critical damage, he started to make his way in the direction of Luther's cell. The Elder Paladin had not managed to reach Luther's cell when the demons vanished. With the Lord Paladin unable to leave the entrance to the Lion's chamber till certain the enemy had been repelled, it was Supreme Grandmaster Azrael who discovered Luther's escape. Approaching the entrance to the cell, it was clear that the fighting had been intense. The unholy corpses of demons littered the corridor, and their foul blood covered the walls. What was left of the pure paladin was pinned to the wall by a large spear through his abdomen. The pure paladin had so many grievous injuries that they would be unable to recover his gene seed. His left arm had been amputated just below the elbow, the stump already rotting and stinking with corruption. The severed limb was meters away, clutching what remained of an ancient plasma pistol that was part melted into the floor. The entire top right side of his helmet had been torn away, and the exposed flesh blistered with fresh burns. His power armor was pitted from multiple impacts and was covered in deep cuts, many penetrating into his flesh and bone. In his right hand was the hilt of his once mighty power sword, a relic of the chapter. The blade had been broken just above the hilt and was never recovered. Despite the valiant defense of the pure paladin, the Paladins of the Lion had failed. Luther had been freed. They had lost a high-ranking brother, and many of his sacred weapons and artifacts had been lost completely, or damaged or corrupted beyond repair. The newly appointed pure paladin Nathaniel requested permission to be allowed to leave the rock, hunt down and recapture Luther. This was denied by Supreme Grand Master Azrael and Lord Paladin Jehadiel, as they felt that should a similar attack befall the rock again, both paladins would be needed to defend the Primarch. Luther would now become the main focus of the other 10 paladins. Because only the paladins and Supreme Grand Master know of the existence of Luther, a special protocol has been created in the event he is located or even captured. If he is located, then the 10 paladins and the Supreme Grand Master are to converge on the location as fast as they can. It will then be down to them alone to capture Luther. Only in extenuating circumstances are the other members of the chapter to be used, and even then they are only to provide support and be told as little as possible. In the unlikely event that Luther is captured in a similar manner to regular fallen by an individual paladin, then the paladin responsible is to personally oversee his conveyance rather than the chaplain knight, not allowing any of his company near him in transit. Ideally, other paladins will join up with them along the way to the rock to ensure he is returned. Following the attack on the rock, the Lord Paladin and Supreme Grand Master have been discussing other safety protocols around defending the rock and what is hidden in its depths. The Lord Paladin has stated that further security is needed. He is of the belief that his own survival is because of the Elder Paladin, who took near critical damage fighting the demons likely destined to attack him to get to the lion. The realization of how vulnerable they could be, even in the depths of the rock, troubles the Lord Paladin. Should the void shields be penetrated again, he wants to ensure they do not fail. The Lord Paladin is currently putting a case forward to resurrect an ancient unit from the Dark Angel's history, the Iron Wing. The Iron Wing was one of the original 6 wings in the Legion, along with the Death Wing and Raven Wing. These wings were specialists in certain tasks used when the situation was considered too dangerous for regular forces. The Iron Wing specialized in heavy armor, such as land raiders and dreadnoughts. The Lord Paladin is suggesting that from now on, whenever possible, slain paladins will be interned into a sarcophagus to serve as dreadnoughts. This newly formed Iron Wing will only consist of dreadnoughts piloted by paladins. The Iron Wing will patrol the depths of the rock and be the last line of defense. It is thought to have been approved by Supreme Grand Master Azrael, and the next paladin to be mortally wounded will likely be the first of the newly founded Iron Wing. Dealing with the Inquisition and other Imperial forces. Although keeping the dark secret of the Unforgiven is a burden for all the Sons of the Lion, the Paladins of the Lion take up this duty with as much reverence as they do hunting the fallen. Nothing is more important than keeping this secret, protecting L. Johnson's honor. This has been made increasingly difficult in an Imperium that is now built around rooting out corruption and eliminating it. The Dark Angels and their descendants are already mistrusted given their secretive and odd behavior. The only reason they are still tolerated and accepted are their impressive and lengthy list of accomplishments and victories in the name of the Imperium. The fact that their gene seed is so pure and is invaluable for creating new chapters, but the most important reason is that there is no evidence that even suggests any treachery. This last point can only be attributed to the dedication of the Paladins of the Lion and the Unforgiven in hiding or destroying any evidence before it is discovered. The Inquisition are the main threat to the Unforgiven. Their entire purpose is to find corruption. Because of this, many Inquisitors have met their end at the hands of the Paladins. Many of these unfortunate Inquisitors will not even realize that they have started to uncover the hidden truth of the Dark Angel's history. The Paladins of the Lion might attack them outright, ambushing the Inquisitor and retinue if they are able to do so in a way that would have the Nuisance Inquisitor disappear without trace. However, it is also very likely that they will use ships or armor that have been converted to resemble those of Chaos Marines or even captured from Chaos Marines in order to cover their tracks. Who would question forces of Chaos attacking Imperial forces? Like others within the Unforgiven, the Paladins of the Lion have also been known to eliminate entire cities or planets of loyal Imperial citizens in order to cover up any traces of their secret. Should Chaos attack or raid the Imperium, it is the duty of any Astartes to defend against the attack. The Unforgiven, however, will take a particular interest if they believe that a fallen angel is among the traitor forces. In some cases, rather than run the risk of their secret being exposed, it is easier to purge an entire populace. Despite the loss of so many potentially innocent lives, it is seen as an acceptable loss by some in an Imperium that often loses thousands of lives in the blink of an eye. But it is not just Inquisitors and human forces that have been victims of the Paladins of the Lion. Other Astartes forces have also been known to be attacked and silenced by the Unforgiven chapters, following direction from the Paladins of the Lion. Although a rare occurrence, there are known attacks on fellow Astartes. One example is where a small detachment from the Blood Ravens was lost without trace and assumed lost to a warp storm when in transit. In truth, the Blood Ravens had unknowingly collected an ancient Dark Angel's artifact, believed to be an ancient piece of armor worn by one of the fallen angels at the destruction of Caliban. The Paladins of the Lion approached them and demanded that any artifact linked to the Dark Angels to be handed over. Despite having genuine identification codes, the Blood Ravens did not recognize the chapter and found it peculiar they had appeared suddenly making these demands. This resulted in the Blood Ravens appearing to stall their request. This left the Paladin concerned that they were examining the artifacts or trying to contact others in their chapter to make them aware of the situation. They could not allow the artifact to be examined or for suspicions to be spread to others within the Blood Ravens. They needed to recover it or ensure it was destroyed, and to this effect reinforcements were called in, and an overwhelming force of Unforgiven destroyed the Blood Raven ship, and all aboard it outright. As well as being willing to kill any that could uncover the truth, the Paladins of the Lion also proactively try to mislead or stop any investigations before such extreme methods are required. To do this, they have supposedly been trying to infiltrate the Inquisition and linked agencies. To achieve this, a small number of knights are thought to have approached and joined the Death Watch as Black Shields. Prior to joining, the knight will have spent many years, even centuries, constantly being psychically conditioned so as to be able to hide their true intentions and motivations. When acting as a Black Shield, they might be able to influence events or feed back intelligence to their paladin regarding anything that could pose a risk to the chapter. It is also possible that these Black Shields could be working towards getting a position in the retinue of an Inquisitor. If they did achieve this, they would be able to offer direct intelligence regarding Inquisition investigations and could even look to become Inquisitors in their own right, being able to directly thwart investigations from within the Inquisition itself. It is unknown if this is a goal of the Paladins or whether they see the risk in this plan to be too great. It would all depend on how far an individual Paladin is willing to push his knights. Conclusion. The Paladins of the Lion could be seen as zealots within chapters already known for their fierce fanaticism. They long for the day when they and the rest of the Unforgiven have absolved themselves of their past sins and can once again focus entirely on serving the Emperor and the Imperium as they once did. And they will do anything to achieve this. The Paladins of the Lion want nothing more than to again be the honor guard to Lionel Johnson, his proud, honorable champions and pureblades. But for now, they will be the eyes and ears in the darkest of shadows, cast by the First Legion's shameful history.